Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Hovership Havoc. Continuing on from the last episode, I'll now be taking the Devastator out for a spin. But before that, I need to talk about something that I should have talked about back in episode 1 or 2. Each of these upgrades should actually tell us what they increase the stat by. For instance, increasing the HP by 1 over here, what does that translate to increasing our max HP by? 5 or 10%? Same with damage and range. As for example, increasing the weapon damage stat of the pulse cannon is different from increasing the weapon damage stat of the laser blaster. For the former, it increases it by 2, for the latter, it increases it by 1. I'd rather know the exact values of every stat I have, that way I can better allocate my upgrades. So without further ado, let's start from level 1. I'll work my way starting from here all the way to the final boss encounter. Oh, and for full disclosure, I received a key from the developer through Woovit in order to let's play this title. The Devastator ship is essentially the shotgun unit of this game. It has one of the lowest firing rates in the entire game, slower than the pulse cannon at base. However, the amount of damage it deals per shot is the highest in the entire game. It's also the fastest ship class in the game, tied with the plasma gatling. Even though the stat screen of this ship shows that it has a really high spread, one of the highest in the game, it doesn't. It has the second lowest spread. That stat screen is lying. The laser blaster and the plasma gatling have a much higher spread. The three downsides of this ship are its low firing rate, its low cooldown, and its low range. So in effect, it's kind of the opposite of the pulse cannon. I say kind of because it shares its downsides of its low firing rate and its low cooldown. So I only advise using this ship class if you're a bit more of a skilled player. I don't recommend playing this ship as your first one. I recommend playing the pulse cannon as your first ship, perhaps the laser blaster if you want to be a bit more risky, as you really need to get up close and personal to deal enough damage to these enemies, unless you upgrade your range. But of course, before you do so, you really want to learn about the enemy patterns. I still find this to be easier to play than the Plasma Gatling though. Of course, that's due to its low damage per shot, and its really high spread. But I'll get into that more during the next episode, where I'll complete the game using the Plasma Gatling. The missile ability is my favorite ability in the entire game. Its really high damage and very high area of effect makes up for its low cooldown. Whoops, I missed that. I hope it wasn't a stat upgrade. I find getting through this facility the easiest using the pulse cannon or the laser blaster. I find it the hardest with the Devastator and the Plasma Gatling, as you need to be a more skilled player to use it properly and get by the facilities without taking too much damage, as these two latter ship classes require you to get up close and personal with the enemies. Not that those two are bad ship classes. I still find them more fun to play than the laser blaster. See situations where I start to have problems, especially with the shorter range ships. Combined with the fact that my weapon heats up as I take damage means that I can unfortunately get stun locked if I'm not careful, especially with the ships which have lower cooldown. Again, I've missed that. Hopefully I won't need it. Let's see. That should be good enough. As I said, level 1 isn't too bad to get through as long as you get a few upgrades with this. At base, this is a bit of a challenge to get a hold of. Same with the plasma gatling. Remember how I said the best strategy against this boss is to get up close and personal? Even at base, this is a really easy boss fight. All the boss battles using this ship are really easy, as none of the bosses, excluding this one, has a melee attack. But even then, this boss rarely uses its melee attack. I reiterate my earlier statement that the purple walkers are the most dangerous enemy in the game, up there with the tanks and mechs. And that's why I love the missile. It makes me wish I had a flamethrower ship in this game. I know there is a flamethrower ability in this game, I just wish I had a ship where it was my primary weapon. Another handy thing about this ship's primary weapon is that it fires several small projectiles at once, meaning that I can destroy a small group of enemies at a time if they're weak enough. Same holds true with the plasma gatling, but because it has much weaker individual shots, and because of its much higher spread, it's a lot harder to pull it off. The tanks are still a nuisance to deal with. In fact, those tanks essentially counter this ship. They're fast, have long range, are somewhat predictable, and deal a lot of damage per hit. Where the missile falters is against bosses, but I have the shotgun for dealing with them. In general, all the abilities talk against the bosses. They are only really useful against enemies, but even then, quite a few of the abilities feel underpowered, at least at base level. Once again, I wish under the upgrades menu it actually told me how upgrading the abilities actually affects them, in raw stat totals that is. This arena was awfully easy. I was expecting some tanks or mechs to spawn in. I hear the mechs. Goodbye, mechs. As long as they can get close enough to the mechs, they'll die in 3 or 4 shots. This room again? I wish this game's RNG would prevent consecutive room repeats. This room was a pain with the laser blaster, but now it's a cinch. It was mainly because of getting swarmed by these weaker enemies. Oh, I recall this arena. Get ready for the laser turrets and mechs to spawn in. And I like how the primary weapon fire of the ship has a lot of punch to it. It feels like I'm firing a strong weapon, not a pea shooter. This facility has been completed. Also, you may have noticed that the experience you get by shooting your weapon, that depends on what ship class you're playing as. Because of this ship's lower fire rate, I gain more experience per shot. So here's a spider boss. Here's an easy strategy to deal with it. Well, it would have worked if these purple walkers didn't spawn in with their shields. I could have played it much more risky and damage tanked everything, but I didn't want to take the chance there. So much easier than playing with the pulse cannon. That's why I said all bosses are rather weak to the shotgun. After all, the spider boss doesn't have any melee attacks. You know, this arena kinda reminds me of Simon Says. Look at the way it's shaped. This final level is hard for any ship class, I find. There's always one or more enemy patterns that prove to be difficult to deal with. Unless you're high leveled enough, but that requires grinding, or repeated playthroughs. The final stage music is awesome though. Most of the other musical tracks in this game are kinda forgettable. They fade into the background for me. But this is somewhat memorable. The main reason why I don't like the purple walkers is because their fast movement speed, well, relatively fast, in between the yellow and orange enemies, their ability to fire projectiles at me, and because they can raise shields, and because of their smaller hitbox. It isn't too much of a problem with this ship, but with other ships with more precise aiming like the laser blaster and especially the pulse cannon, they prove to be troublesome. There's so many missiles on the right side of this arena. I'll have to deal with them slowly. I can't get close enough to the tank. I'll have to whittle it down from afar. I wonder how strong these abilities are at full power. If I upgrade them to max, does it reduce their cooldown to minimum? I hope so. I can get out of here now. This is harder than the final boss encounter, all things considered. We're out of here. On to the facility core. I'll need the HP more. I could have also gotten here at level 8 or level 9, but I didn't want to take any chances. I could have gotten unlucky with my ability drops, but here I got super lucky with getting the missile and drone wave shooter, two of my favorite abilities in the entire game. Alright, here's the strategy. Yes, it's that simple. Thanks to my high damage per shot and my relatively higher HP, this boss was kind of anticlimactic. And thus this entire facility has been destroyed, but we got destroyed as well. So no matter how well we do, we always end up dying at the end. I would have preferred if this and the spider boss actually had some melee attacks, so you can't just easily cheese it like this. I would have also liked if there was at least one more stage before this final boss encounter, so it'd be a bit more consistent, as right now it feels like it ends a bit abruptly. Oh sure, the previous stage does feel like a marathon stage, but still, it should have a bit more rooms, and perhaps a bit more variety and showcase all of the ship classes, or rather all the enemy ship classes. Is there a way to skip the credits? I guess not. So overall, I love playing as the Devastator. It's up there with the pulse cannon as being my favorite ship class. Definitely better than the laser blaster. I feel the main disadvantage with the laser blaster is that it's a jack of all trades and master of none. And being a master of none in this game is not that good. You really need to focus in one or two areas in order to survive here. So in the next episode, I'll level grind and take out the plasma gatling for a spin. And following that, I'll give my final thoughts on this game as a whole. I'll lightly showcase some footage of me destroying the final boss using the laser blaster, but that'll be when I'm talking over and giving my final thoughts on this game as a whole. Well then, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Toodles!